Good morning, Rabbi Sai. Today, Rabbi says the outside of the Elkim הקודש, Harizal. Rav Yessucher לוריא זצוק הקודש לברוכה, Rav Yessucher ben Shleimo. By Mordechai Binder, לעילוי נשמת Rav Avraham ben Yosef Shalom Binder זצוק לברוכה. By Yessucher B Rothbaum. לעילוי נשמת my dear sister, Barind, maybe there's a lamed here, Mendel bas Yitzchak Tzvi. And by Joe Showman for Shlema for my wife, undergoing knee surgery, Parnas HaChodesh by Michael Benmeleh. You're going to love this. Even scream louder than that. In memory of his mother, Devora Faige shmuel and father, Menachem, Mendel, Elchanan, and Succah to make it to Uman Rosh this year.
Amen. Waiting for it.
Says Eli Adler from Spring Valley, New York. Dear Belly, there are no words to explain the geschmack you're putting into the shir. It's a chiddush for a Litvak to have such a geschmack like a chosid. I want to warn you in advance. Till you don't see any kol koyer against the shir, you didn't succeed. I was waiting. I'm waiting for that, you know. Ches v'shalom. From your Talmud who listens and learns at Torah anytime for quite a few months now, Eli Adler. I thought this is a tremendous Hashgacha Pratis. Tell me what you think. Good morning, Rebelli. I already feel a connection, although we never met. My mother grew up on 6548 St. Louis Avenue in Lincolnwood, Illinois. So first of all, that's a couple houses down from my Shver's house. What's amazing is I got this email yesterday, and we basically bought a house in Lincolnwood directly across the street from that house. 6553. This is 6548. You got what's going on here? Okay, just throwing it out there. Her maiden name is Schnell. Her father's Jack Schnell. Curious if you knew them. My uncles are David and Tani Schnell. Where's Yeshua? Yeshua! You hear this? David and Tani Schnell. Vada, the very, very famous in Chicago. I've been trying to keep up with Chabura, but it's not easy when you don't have an actual shaykhs of the Magid Shir. But ever since I listened to your interview with Yaakov and Nachi, everything changed. You're trying to convince Yaakov Lengen to join, but he said he was doing Kinyan Masechta. I myself am doing it. But now that I'm doing Succah, I figured it's a perfect time to join. I didn't even wait. I started on Yuma Daf Pei Hey. Like you said, don't wait until the Masechta is finished. Start now. Thank you for sending me the art scroll. I'm still trying to figure out when to listen to Shir. It's 12:15. It's a little late. Thank you, Rebel. He's not in Chicago. He's from Clifton, New Jersey. Thank you, Rebelli, for making learning Yishmak and fun again. Victor Weiss. Shkoyach. Wow. From Aaron Sittner. Shalom Aleichem, Rebelli. If you have something to say, come over here and say it. I don't know what you're screaming over there. What are you saying? What is he saying? You have any idea? No. I didn't think so. Somebody does start Daphne. Okay, Rabbi said you should all know somebody does start. What? I have no idea. Okay. Shalom Aleichem, Rebelli. I want to share a story with you that happened with my Rebbe, Rav Klein Kaufman. He told us that he found a sefer in yeshiva and he had a kash on some point and wrote it into the margin. A few days later, he sees a response to his kasha written under the note. This correspondence goes on a few times. He never saw who was writing the answers. One night, he gets a call that the yeshiva Farakwe, it's the yeshiva Farakwe, alarm went off at 2 a.m. So he went to investigate. He found your father writing in the sefer. He was the anonymous writer. That is my dad, yeah. What are you saying? You have an announcement to make? No. What? No. So why are you screaming over there? Come here, say your announcement. What? Oh, you said he loves me. Okay, Shkoyach, thank you. Appreciate it. Wow. I'm touched. Shkoyach for screaming it out from the back, though. I'm sure if he was the mechaber of the sefer, he's not sure. Okay, Kol Tov. Oh, we have a lot of time here. This is from a Vrumi Lightman. He's a speech pathology in Lakewood, pathologist. I wanted to express my course for a wonderful shit that you give, and I truly feel that it would be very difficult to go with the grind of the daily daf if I did it any other way. My 13-year-old daughter sees me many times watching a shir in the evening, and she says, that Eli Stefansky is your new bestie. Teen lingo for best friend. I also wanted to give thanks Again to the sponsors, Mayuma Gemara. I have to say that your motto of catch up later was right on target for me. I finished myself a few days late. The only problem is that in my case, choyte niskar, because I get to make a siyum in the 9 days. I believe that some say there's an Indian daf to make a siyum in the 9 days. Okay. Avrumi Lightman. One more. We still have time. Revoy said one more. Okay. First of all, I want to thank you so much for the amazing share. This must take hours to prepare. It's extremely noticeable in clarity, including pictures, props. I was curious if one may or should answer amen to the bracha of shahakol that you make on your water while watching the shir and Zoom. I'm not a Rav. I don't know. Anyway, it's time to get to the daf. Shmuel Hech, Brooklyn, New York. And then I got another one yesterday. Rebelli. On occasion, I see you drink water without a bracha and something's with. Why?
Come on.
Sometimes I drink without a bracha. Shall I be saying amen when it's just seeing you making bracha? Mordechai. The answer is that because people don't know if to say bracha, so I try to make the bracha before shir starts. That's why you see me drink without a bracha. I don't know. I'm not a Rav. I do Daf Yomi. I'm a balabas that does Daf Yomi. I don't know anything about. Anybody want pens? Oh, Donnie. Pen. Okay, fine. Rabbi say, you probably are wondering what goes on up there in that booth over there. I've never been up there until last night. You're not going to believe it. This is what goes on in the booth up there. It's pretty intense. Here's the audio board. Here's that new joystick, the $1,000 joystick. It's an amazing piece. And they're operating 2 cameras. And you have to know how to... My kids they feel cool when they push the buttons. It's like on TV. You push camera 1, camera 2, and going to camera... And he has this mouthpiece over here, and he's talking to the guy that's sitting right next to him. It's unbelievable. And if you look closely, right in this box right over here, you could see my chavrusa, Rav Yedidia Kramer, who's also on the screen, but this is what they see. This is how they see me. How you guys doing up there? It's unbelievable. All right, great. Oh, we didn't do a Good Morning Rabbi Sai from the Kosel. Do we have that? Sounds not good? Oh, that one? Yeah, I know. So what? But it's kedai to do anyways. This is the picture of the Kosel Siyum, one of them. It's a beautiful, beautiful gathering. Okay. Today also happens to be one of the records. I don't know. There's over 20 different pictures here that I had to print out. So hold on tight. Says the Gemara. We're holding on Daf Amud Beis all the way in the bottom, 3 lines from the bottom. V'oisoi tefach heicham amidoy. We discuss machloikis. Is it shtayim kil chasan v'shlishis lafil tefach? Is it 2 full walls that are 7 tefachim plus the tefach? Was it 3 plus 1 tefach? If there is 1 tefach, shtayim kil chasan v'shlishis lafil tefach. Where do you put this tefach? So we have a big machloikis here. You don't really need the pictures. You can just look in the side of your Gemara. You have it pretty much all cleared up. So, picture number 1 is you take this tefach, this brown piece, and you just put it by 1 wall. So it creates a 3rd wall, and this is how we understand everything is beautiful. The 2 of them told Rav, top of Daf Zayin Amud Aleph, so you can see in the picture in Rashi, or you could look over here, it's in color. I just put the blue line here. If you put it a little bit on the angle, it creates a triangle and it closes up your wall. If you just put it out straight, then it's not closing anything. It's pretending to close 1 wall. Over here, it closes it off, creates a triangle, which is not a problem, l'chayra. There are some that say you shouldn't really make a sukkah out of a triangle, but of course you have here at least a zayin al zayin or dal dal, whatever the shear is with inside over here, and it closes it off. Another pshat. That's just on one of the 2 walls, but straight. It's ki'ilu, it's a 3rd wall, but it's only 1 tefach. This, it's bent in on an angle, creating a line here. This one is bent to meet the other corner. Like, it's in line with this blue line that I threw on here. That's keneged roish tar. The other one is that it's bent this way. It's in a straight line. Pretend here, this red line over here, that's what it's following. That's the first pshat. similar but not really. But Shasik Rav, according to one pshat, he didn't like what they were saying at all. Excuse me. He ignored them. Another pshat in Rosh Tar, over here, is put it in a place that it's not touching anything. And it could close off the two gaps, an imaginary line, so to speak, halachically or whatever, going from here to this. You put it right in the corner that's not touching anything. That's another pshat according to the Maram, excuse me, in Rashi. In Rashi. Tefach. I don't think so. Don't think so. He certainly didn't have those straight lines like that. His ksav was a little. Next prat. Itmar nami. Omar shmuel shmei de Levi. Ma'amidoi keneged hayotzei. Okay, like the first shot we had. V'chein morim be midrasha, and that's how they paskin there. We don't paskin like that, but that's how many Amoraim paskin. Ma'amidoi keneged hayotzei. You do put it attached to one wall, not as a triangle, but as a square. I'm holding this up for the next shot. Don't worry. Refuah Shleimo Omar. So there's a regular tefach, and there's a laughing tefach, which means slightly, the fingers don't touch each other, like somebody that smiles and laughs, and it's a larger tefach. So you take a larger tefach, and you place it 3 tvachim away from the wall. So what do you have total? You have a little bit less than 3 tvachim gap, and that is closed in with halacha of lavud, plus 1 tefach, so we have 4 tvachim. 4 tvachim is the majority of a 7 tefach wall. You're supposed to have a 7 tefach wall. Now you have the majority of it, and that's how we use the one. You want to know how to use the 1 tefach? You don't take that 1 tefach and put it on the wall. You take the 1 tefach and you maximize its ability. That 1 tefach could create a 4 tefach wall. Why not do that? Succah has suya mavui ksheiro. Mavui is an alleyway that, I don't have the picture here, we had it the other day. In those days, the chatzeros used to go into the alleyway. Basically, according to Rashi, not according to Taisus, according to Rashi, it's a mavui mefulish. It's open on both ends. So this is the alleyway, and you drive through here, you walk through here. So the point is, it's a sukkah that has 2 walls, very good walls, but they're not touching each other. They're not on right angles. It's not an L shape. It's just 2 walls that are separated. It's kosher, but you still need 1 tefach. What do you do with the tefach? He has 4 options here. He could put it on any one of the 4 sides. And here in this place, he put it right over here on this. Use the tefach over here. So you have 1 wall and a tefach. And opposite it, you have another wall. Big chiddush that this works. Because it's not shtaim kil chasam. It's shtaim kil chasam, each one individually. I don't think so. No, that one is attached. Attached. Rabbi Simon B'Temo, Rabbi Yessucher Ben Levi Omar, Oise loy pasar bo mashu. In the mavui, where you don't have the 2 walls touching each other, and it looks something like this. You make a nice, serious 4 tefach piece of whatever, wood in this case, and you distance it 3 tvachim away from the corner, a little drop less than 3. So now we have a total of 7. 4 plus the gap of 3 is 7, and Menachem we have a full-fledged wall in a case of a mavui. This is not a case of a regular sukkah that has 2 walls and we're trying to figure out what to do with the tefach. This is specifically for the case that you have 2 walls that are not touching each other. How come we said before 1 tefach is enough and you put it 3 tefachim away from the wall? All of a sudden now we need a serious piece of wood that's 4 tefachim wide. Over there where the 2 walls are L-shaped, they're touching each other. So it's enough to use 1 tefach. Eli, loy. Okay. Stam, interesting halacha. What happens? What would you think? We're talking about shtayim kil chasan u'shlishis afilu tavach. So what if you have a sukkah, and in the sukkah you have your nice candelabra, it costs $1,000, $2,000, whatever silver costed it, and sitting there in your sukkah, and it's open, it has only 2 walls and a tefach, and you're in the middle of 13th Avenue. As soon as you turn around, somebody's going to and walk away. Is that a kosher sukkah? Because perhaps a sukkah that somebody could just grab your stuff and leave, that's not a good sukkah. I'll give you a hint. There's a halacha that says, there's a Mordechai Rishon who says that if you have a sukkah that's open like that, and you're scared to sleep, you're in the middle of a street, and people are going to walk by and poke you in the middle of the night, they're going to do stuff to you. So it's not kosher. The sukkah is not kosher. So what about a sukkah that you can steal from? So there was a chacham echad that said did the same halacha. But the Ramah said it's loy sharirin v'loy kayamim, there's no connection. When you're sleeping, you're really scared. So it ruins your sleep. It's not a good shlaf. And if you can't sleep, it's not a good sukkah. Any sukkah you can't sleep in is not a good sukkah even for eating. But over here, you worry that somebody might take. So you'll stay there. That's not a reason to say that a sukkah is possible. That's what the Ramah says. Okay. Weiter. Omar Rava. Ve'ena niteres ela b'tzuras haPesach. Comes Rava and says, you know what you do with that tefach? You make a doorway out of the tefach. You take the tefach, you split it in half. Like a half and a half. Let's see if I have a good picture of it. Half a tefach over here, half a tefach over here. And you make a tzuras haPesach, like this. The entire wall. Okay, forget this part over here. I don't know if I have a better picture. Tzuras haPesach. So you take again, what do you do with the tefach? He says you put it over here. He says you put it 3 tefach. Comes Rav and says, no, take the tefach, cut it in half, take a saw, cut the tefach in half. Now you have a half a tefach over here, half a tefach over here. Put something on top. You make a whole frame. There's nothing like a tzuras haPesach. When we were learning Eruvin, tzuras haPesach is the strongest way to make a mechitza in Eruvin. It's a lot better than a lechi, a lot better than a kaira, etc. Okay. So, betzim we have 3 shitos in Rava. What did Rava really mean? Did he say, Eina niteres ela b'tzuras haPesach? The only way this could be mutters if you do a tzuras haPesach. Iked Amri, Omar Rava, and some say in Rava's name, V'niteres nami b'tzuras haPesach. Not only do you use 1 tefach, if you want, you don't have a tefach piece of wood. It's hard to come by. Wood is expensive. You have 2 half a tefachim. I have an eitzah for you. Either you could use your tefach piece of wood, or you could use 2 half tefachim and create a tzuras haPesach out of it. You have a choice. Iked Amri, and a third sheet, Omar Rava, utzricha nami tzuras haPesach. What does that mean? That you need both. Let's see if I have here. You take a tzuras haPesach, and you take a tefach in addition to the tzuras haPesach, and you put it 3 tefachim away, so now you have 4 tefachim, plus a tzuras haPesach, now you're golden. You have 4 tefachim over here, plus a tzuras haPesach of 3 tefachim, or whatever, and now you have a serious wall. You're combining a tefach with a tzuras haPesach. That's all. Here's the other picture. A tzuras haPesach that takes up. Here we go. By the way, I said it already twice since the beginning of the Sechta, but because it's the Arizal's yard side. The Arizal is the one that says, Shtayim kil chasan, v'shlis afil tevach. Because Baruch Hu's hugging Klal Yisrael. 1, 2, and a little bit here. That's a hug. The Arizal will say b'shmoi on his yard side. I saw an Alshich, because we're learning Sukkah now, we're learning about walls. So how do you stick in a little bit of a Geshmaga thing for the 9 days? The Alshich says, Shnayim kil chasan shlishis afil tefach. He says, what do we daven for? Banei chayev mizoyne reviche. 3 things. So he says, when you daven, there's a difference between these 3 things. You have banim, children, chay, life, and mizoynes, parnasa. He says, when you daven, make sure you daven for your children and health Shnaim kil chasam. Those have to be k'moish tzarech. The shlishes, but the mezainas, it's a fil tefach. Don't worry about it. Because Baruch will take care of you. Don't bother. And if the Yetzer Hara comes along and says, listen, I need parnassus, I'm not doing well, what are we going to do? He says, then you have to make a tzuras HaPesach. Make a tzuras HaPesach to remind you that we're going from this world to that world. We're only here temporarily. It's not a big deal. Chaparai and learn Torah, make sure you have children, make sure you have health. Parnasa, no. We're here at tzuras HaPesach. And then I was reminded, I spoke to Rabbi Schoenberg last night. There was a Mordechai story. This is for the 9 days, the cover of the 9 days. In 1190, there were 150 Jews that were trapped in a palace in York, in England. Here, in this palace right over here, the Clifford Palace. 1190, still here, it still exists. The guy were chasing them, and they made a deal with the guy over here, with the head, and he let them in, and then he turned on them, a whole mice, so they kicked him out. But everybody's screaming outside, we got to kill the Jews, kill the Jews. And they realized, and they said, if you come out and you baptize, we'll let you live. Otherwise, forget about it. You know what they did? They made a bracha on Al Kiddush Hashem, and they shechted each other. They all committed suicide. 150 Yidden in 1190. It's a documented story. Adayim Hazeh, nobody sleeps in the town York. A Yid will not sleep there. If you live in England, right? Rabbi Schoenberg, MS, there's a chayrim or something, no? After 5, it's like the chayrim de Rabbi Gershom. After 500 years, it passes. No? So you're marrying another woman? Yeah. Really? Oh, you don't even step into York? The Olam doesn't go to York. Fine. You don't even show that picture. The Alshich Narizal. Okay, very good.
The Rizal used to come to Ashik from a shiur, but he wouldn't let the Ashik come to his shiur.
Ha. Okay. Baruch Hashem. Baruch Shekivanu. Kemat. He's saying the Alshich Narizal. Since the Rizal's yard says, so he yaitz with the Torah of the Alshich. Okay. Beautiful. Weiter. Rav Ashi. Ashkechel Rav Kahana de Kovat Tefach Soichek. V'ka'avet Tzuras HaPesach. He did two things. Interesting. You know, people took this seriously. I guess the wood was expensive, whatever. To make a whole wall was difficult. So he used the tefach and the tzuras HaPesach. Or maybe he stopped and wanted to show his children how he could be yotzei sukkah. It's halach l'maisa. You use a tefach away from the wall 3 tefachim. In addition, you do a little bit of a tzuras HaPesach. Bam, you have a kosher sukkah which really consists of 2 walls. Rava says that you could get away with only tzuras HaPesach. Why do you do 2? Oh yeah, no. Really, there's a 3-way machlokes. What Rava said. I hold like the lashon that says you need a tefach and the tzuras HaPesach. Lama Rava, what's your nami tzuras HaPesach? Okay. Shtaim kil chason. 2 walls that are 7 tefachim and 1 wall that's a tefach for a total of 3 walls. Omar Rava, v'chein l'Shabbos. This is an amazing halacha. On Shabbos, this Shabbos coming up, if you carry from your house into a room that consists of 2 walls and a tefach, which is in the middle of Rishus HaRabim, you're over. Issa d'oraisa. You're carrying from Rishus HaYachid into Rishus HaRabim, 2 walls and a tefach don't do anything for you on Shabbos. But if it's Shabbos Sukkos, 1 time a year, this Shabbos in the middle of Sukkos, it is a good Rishus HaYachid. You believe it? If it's a sukkah and it's a room, and I'm telling you, you could be yotzei mitzvah sukkah with this room, so it's a Rishus HaYachid for you. So all of a sudden it flips into Rishus HaYachid on Shabbos, even though all other 51 weeks of the year, it's not a Rishus HaYachid. Amazing. It's a wild halacha. V'chein l'Shabbos. Migui. It's a migui. Migui da have doifeli in sukkah. Since we consider this a full-fledged wall, have a doifeli in Shabbos. That halacha. It's a doiraisa. Mechitzin halacha l'mishmar Sinai. Halacha l'mishmar Sinai dictates that it's a true wall. So if it's a true wall, it's a wall for Shabbos, only the Shabbos of the year. I'll prove to you the opposite. Doifen Sukkah kedoifen Shabbos. Ubelvad shliya ben kona lechaveroi shloisha tfachim. So it goes like this. This wall works if there's less than a 3 tefach gap between each piece of wood. Now, question. When Shabbos is a halacha, they can't have parutz meruba loimed. You can't have the open space be more square footage than the standing space. So is this kosher on Shabbos? Yes. Why? Oh, not maybe. That is the pshat, because it's lavud. Lavud bridges the gap. This is considered completely closed, and Menachem, it works. Shabbos and Shabbos. Now, another halacha, the same thing. We learned this in Eruvin. It doesn't matter what way you go. You see this a lot. People have these kind of sukkahs today. They sell them a little bit. Like, you put these ropes, because of the halacha that the wall can't sway, so they sell you this tight string, and that doesn't move at all. You put it every less than 3 tfachim going this way, and that works. Okay. Viseiro Shabbos al Sukkah. Shabbos is more chamor than Sukkah. Shabbos einon iteres ella ba'omed meruba ala paretz. Mashe eikim besukkah. Okay, so here it goes. Look at this sukkah right over here. So they did a very nice job. I don't know if you could see. The red, everything in red obviously is closed off. Everything in yellow is open. If you do the math here, because this wall is completely open, there are 18 amma that are open and 16 amma that are closed. So this is a good example of a parut meruba al-aymed. There's more open area than closed area. On Shabbos, this sukkah is not a good mechitza. This is not a rishus hayachid. On Sukkos, it is. So what should the halacha be? That on Shabbos Sukkos, this should work. This should be a good sukkah. Why? Because since it's a good sukkah on every other day, so it should be a good sukkah on Shabbos. You're right that on a typical Shabbos it doesn't work, but on the Shabbos of Sukkos it should work. But it doesn't say that here. What does it say? My love says Abaya. Yisera Shabbos the Sukkah, Asukah. That's what it says here. It says that there's a bigger chumrah on Shabbos than Sukkos. And that this Sukkah does not work on the Shabbos in the middle of the Yontif Sukkos. Why? Because it's Parutz Meruba L'Aymet. And Parutz Meruba L'Aymet does not work on Shabbos. You can't say Migoy. According to Rava, we should say Migoy. Since this is a perfect Sukkah for all other days of the week, in the weekdays, so this should be a good Sukkah on Shabbos Kodesh, in the middle of Sukkos. And it says L'chayr, it's not. Lo, you didn't understand Pshat, says Rava back to Abaya. You say Shabbos the Alma al Shabbos the Sukkah. It's not true. You're right. The Shabbos of Sukkos, this does work. All the Bryce was saying is that a typical Shabbos, this week's Shabbos, that this wouldn't be a good mechitza, but Sukkos, it is a good mechitza. So you see that there's a difference between Shabbos and Sukkah. Listen, Nami, say Sukkah the Alma as Sukkah the Shabbos. Let's do the reverse. Now what? Dilu Sukkah the Alma by Tavach Soichik. If you have 2 walls, just 2 walls, what do you have to do in order to make the Sukkah kosher? You have to add 1 tefach, not just the tefach, a fat tefach. Okay. And what if you have 2 walls on Shabbos? How do you carry in that place? It's called a mavui. What do you do to make a mavui mutter? You put a lechi. How big is a lechi? A mashu. There's no shear to a lechi. So now you see that Shabbos is more kal than Sukkah. So why don't we say that? We should also add that as a chiddush. Not only are we going to take the kulas of Sukkah, but we're also going to take the kulas of Shabbos. We took the kula of Sukkah, saying that you could also use a parts meruba la'aymed, We took the kula of Sukkah. Yeah? So let's take the kula of Shabbos and say that all you need is a lechi mashu. You don't need a tefach seichek. You don't need a full fist. You could do a little tiny sliver of wood and that should also work. So here's the picture. Here's an open mavi. And he puts schach on top. All you need to do, even though these two walls are not touching each other, all you need to do is put a tiny little piece of wood right over here, called the lechi. You don't need a full-fledged tefach. So what's the question? The question is, so why don't you put it in the brisa? Tell me two halachas. Say, if I'm going to use a kula of sukkah on Shabbos sukkahs, in other words, I have a wide open sukkah. It has air everywhere. It's 51% air and 49% wall. Typically on Shabbos, that's not a good room. That's not a Rosh Hashanah. But because that Shabbos fell out in the middle of the Yantav of Sukkahs, it's a good wall. So that's kula number one. Halacha number two, if I create a sukkah made out of two walls, instead of typically having to use a full tefach, I can use a sliver of wood that's barely noticeable. It's called a lechi, and that works. Since it works on a regular Shabbos in the middle of the year for people to carry in the mavi, it also works on sukkahs. Two halachas. Says the Gemara, you're not going to like the Torah so much. I like tzrichalei. You're 100% right. But there's no need to write it. Why? If Shabbos, if you're over on Shabbos, you get misa, skila, there's nothing worse than getting stoned to death. Sukkahs, no, you didn't eat in the sukkah. I ate outside of the sukkah. They're not going to give me misa for that. So it's much more chomer Shabbos. And I'm willing to take the big chomer of Shabbos and say that typically you can't use this as a mechitza on Shabbos because it has too much air. But it's, on Sukkot, the kal makes it into a good mechitza. So certainly, then of course, if it's a good lechi, the lechi works on Shabbos, of course it's going to work on Sukkot. There's no need for me to say it. Unbelievable. I know you're not going to like it, huh? Shaking his head. It doesn't like it. Okay. Can't win them all. What are you saying? So that sukkah is more chomer? But Rav is the one that was mechadish this din. Rav himself was mechadish this din. Yeah. I saw what you did there, Gary. I like it. It's not bad. You're getting better at it. He zoomed that at the oilam, zoomed, he showed the oilam, and then he went, but it's hard. You have to control. I'll tell you how it works. This joystick has a zoom in the stick as you turn it. And you move it forward and backwards. So you have to, it's like, that's what they said. They asked me, how come you're not good at this? I was pretty shvach. You have to be coordinated. You have to like zoom in, and he's playing with it. And at the same time, okay, that's why they get paid the big bucks up there. Gufa Marava. Now we're turning to the Zayin Amud Beis, sponsored by the MDY Tehillim Group. For all those who need Shidduchim, Refuahs, and Yeshuas, please join tehillim.amindaf.com. Oh, so we just finished talking about this case. There's two walls, and he puts the schach on top of the two walls. There's no connecting walls here. All he does is puts a little tiny piece of wood. I don't even know. Gary, could you zoom? Oh, look at that. Right over here is a piece of wood. That's called a lechi. Wow, Gary, you're getting really good at it. Fine. By the way, I have to say, I forgot to mention, I have to say, tremendous ishkoyach. Who took the picture of me? Chaim Snow. Chaim Snow is a videographer who came in from Efrat. He spent hours and hours. He just got back from America. He spent hours to adjust the coloring. You know, we have new equipment and everything has to be adjusted. The audio, the this. So ishkoyach to Chaim Snow. V'omar Rava. Sikich agabi pasi birois. No. Sikich agabi mavish yesh lelech kshero. V'omar Rava. Sikich agabi pasi birois. Kshero. By the way, here, Stam, I don't know if we skipped this already. This is a great picture to show how a sukkah, this idea of parts merubal ha'imid. This sukkah is missing two walls. So right there it's 50-50. In addition to the 2 walls that are missing, he created a door, he has a window. So obviously the open space, the open area is a lot more than what's closed. And this is 100% kosher on Sukkot. This on Shabbos would be problematic. It's Shabbos Sukkah, it is good. Okay, here's a good example, because you're allowed to have windows, you're allowed to have that kind of stuff. Now, these are, I brought this picture because the picture I'm about to show you doesn't really show the L shape. So I wanted to show you the L shape first. Again, you're in the middle of Reshus HaRabim or a Carmelist, but it's much better to say you're in the middle of Reshus HaRabim, full-fledged Reshus HaRabim D'Oraisa. You're permitted to make Dyumdin, also called Pasibirois. These are made out of 1 amma by 1 amma L shapes. And halachically, we bridge the gap, 13 amma, whatever it is, and we create a Reshus HaYachid. Because this well is Reshus HaYachid. It's 10 tefachim deep, 4 tefachim wide, Reshus HaYachid. So it'd be also for you to draw water from here on Shabbos, and we're concerned about the Oily Regalim. Chachamim said, this works every single time. This works every Shabbos of the year, Chanukah also. Chachamim said, don't use it. We restrict you to use it only by Aliyah L'Regel. Okay, fine. That's their restriction, but Midaraisa, this is mutter. This works perfectly. So now I took this and I made this. You see what I'm saying? You don't really see the L shape here. I tried a little bit to draw over here and whatever. I don't know why, but you don't see it. So now you take, on top of the L shape, you put Succah. Sheira. Utzricha. So now, be'etzem, we have 3 halachas. We just learned 2 of them on top of this page. Now what? That if you have a mavoi, 2 walls, you're allowed to put Succah on top, provided you put a little lechi. We have these funny walls. They're not really walls. I don't know what you could call them. These are L-shaped brackets. I put Succah on top and we're great. And then we have the halacha that we spoke about before, all the way in the beginning of this year, and the whole day, actually, the whole Amud, is that 1 tefach. What do you do with the tefach? Says Gemara Tzricha, all 3 are big chidushim. When we're talking about a mavoi, let's see. So the question is, why do I need these 2? And the answer is, this guy has beautiful walls. Look how tall they are. They're massive. They're just not touching each other. So the chiddush in this one is that they're not touching each other. The chiddush in this one is that they might be touching, but they're very small. They're only 1 amma by 1 amma. Nothing. This is also a chiddush. So that's what the Gemara is saying. Each one has its own little chiddush. So you have 2 perfect walls. You only have an amma. How much is an amma? 6 tvachim. So you have 6 tvachim and 6 tvachim. You don't have a single wall that consists of a 7 tefach wall. It shouldn't work. And if it only said this case of 4 1 amma walls, you have, at the end of the day, you have 4 walls. Yes, they're not 7 tvachim, but they're 4. Over here, in this case, you only have 2 walls. They're massive, but they're only 2. And if I said these 2 cases, I'm going from Shabbos to Sukkot. Shabbos is Chomer because it's Misa. Sukkot is not Misa. But to say the chiddush that we started off, the big chiddush of Rava, that if you have 2 walls and a little tefach, typically that does not work for Shabbos. Why? It's not considered Reshus HaYachid at all, but since it's a good sukkah, says Rav, it's also a good Reshus HaYachid on Shabbos. I wouldn't know to go that direction. To take a halacha that works in sukkahs and use it for Shabbos. That's a bigger chiddush. New sugya. Tremendous chiddushim over here. So he said that the schach has to provide enough shade. And if there's more sun coming in than shade, the Sukkah's puzzle. That's the first mission in Sukkahs. Sukkah. What if there's windows in the Sukkah and a lot of sun comes in? It's burning you up. Shaila, halacha l'maisa. A good Sukkah, not a good Sukkah. Says the Tanna Kama, it's not a problem. Because we are only concerned about what the schach does. What's the ikr Sukkah? Sukkah means schach. I need to make sure that I have the proper amount of schach. If I put sun directly on top of my Sukkah, does it create shade or does it not create shade? I don't care whether the sun is coming in from the walls or not. That's not my problem. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Yoshi Omer, Af machmas tfanois. No, I must be concerned about the walls. So you said before that this kind of sukkah, even though it's paras merubah la'omer, let me find that picture. Let me ask you if you're going to change your mind here. You also said this, Noam. If you have a sukkah that's made out of strings, a bunch of lavuds, we all know what it looks like, but let's get the picture. Forget it, I give up. Okay, you know what it looks like. Let's say you have a wall made out of glass. Your sukkah, your whole sukkah is made out of glass. It's a kosher wall, but sun comes directly in. Or, worst case, your sukkah is made out of strings. Every 2.5 tefachim there's a string. We said that works, even though it's part of it works, you said, because it's lavud. According to Rabbi Yoshia, kosher or not kosher? It's good kasha, no? Because halachically, it's closed. But physically, the sun comes in. What do you say, Rabbi? Not kosher. Why? He's right. Taisus on Amud Aleph says that it's not kosher. Tiny little Taisus in the middle. That according to Rabbi Yoshia, this sukkah would be puzzle. Sukkah made out of glass, sukkah made out of lavud, not kosher. We don't pass it like that. According to Rabbi Yoshia, it would be a problem. Remember, we're talking about the kaporos. Now we're talking about the paroiches, not to be confused. I didn't have a better picture. For lack of picture, here's the paroiches. It's a curtain. This is where the aron used to be. This is the Evan Shasiyah, where we do the k'tairos. It says in the pasuk that this paroiches, which is a standing wall, creates shade, schach. So you see that standing walls have to create schach for our sukkah. That it creates a mechitza, paroiches mechitza, v'kokai rachman eschacha, alma mechitza kischach be'inon. So you see that it has to provide shade, says Rabbi Yoshia. V'rabanan, ahud denikov beipurta, says the Gemara, it's not true. It's interesting, but they're going to say that on top of this paroiches, there's an overhang. It actually created shade from the top, not from the side. That's what it means. Omar Abaya, very, very easy sugya. Abaya says there are 8, not 7, not 6, 8 tanoim that hold that a sukkah has to be a diras keva. That a sukkah has to be a permanent structure, can't be a flimsy, temporary structure. With all these tanaim, we don't pass like it at all. Omar Abaya. Now, another thing we have to understand is, yes, these Tanaim, in theory, they have the same theory, but they don't agree with each other. In other words, you're going to see Rebbe says the sukkah has to be 4 amas, Bishami say it has to be 7 tvachim. But they don't agree with each other. They agree with the idea, not with the outcome. Rebbe, Rebbe Yehuda, Rebbe Shimon, Rebbe Gamliel, Bishami, Rebbe Eliezer, V'acherim, all 8. Kulu Sfirlu, Sukkah Diris Kevabina. And now we go one by one, very, very simple. Rebbe, the Sanya, Rebbe, Oimer, Kol Sukkah, Shem, Ba'arba, Amos, Al-Arba, Amos, Psula. A sukkah has to be a permanent structure. It has to have 4 by 4. Like a mensch. You live like a mensch. You don't live in a little garbage can. You live in a 4 by 4. We just said that if the sun comes through the walls, it's not a good dira. You wouldn't either live like that. You want sun shining into your face? No. So it has to be a permanent structure. The famous review in our first Mishnah, if it's above 20 amma, the Mishnah says it's possible, but comes along Rabbi Yehuda machshir. Why? Because it could be a permanent structure. It could be a 20 amma structure. Shimon, the Sanya Shtayim Kil Chason, Shlish Zafil Tefach. Shimon Oimer, Shosh Kil Chason, Vis Zafil Tefach. Reb Shimon is of the opinion that the sukkah has to have 4 walls. Why? One of the reasons we said all the way at the end, The pasuk says it should protect you from all the elements. No, that's a permanent structure, like a house, protects you from the rain. I printed it. You guys know what it looks like, but I printed. Why not? There's beautiful pictures. Might as well show it. If you make your sukkah like Chabad on top of your pickup truck or on your boat. Kosel, so Benmeleh says it's possible. Why? On the boat too? In Venice? Wow. According to Benmeleh, it's possible because it could blow off in the wind. It's not, it keeps on moving, whatever the reason. It has to be a permanent structure. So this is a completely different sheet of the Rebbe that says that you need 4 amas, but the point is, I need to provide, says Bishamai, a table. Why table? What's a table? Because it has to be like a house. You have to have furniture. You have to live like a mensch. Permanent structure. Rebbe Lezer, this not always kosekim in tzrif. Here, a tzrif, like this. Little teepee hut, whatever it is. It doesn't have a nice surah. People don't like living in roundish, like, here's a guy from the Kosel who was telling me yesterday. Rebbe Yakim is here. He's running away. Imagine if my brother had a situation like this. He had rooms in the attic. And you have a bathroom, just picture a bathroom, a shower you can't live like that. It's very, very difficult. Nobody wants to live like that. You want to live in straight walls. This is temporary. This is for whatever. I'm not going to say that. Fine. Or, like this, once again, like in the houses over here, I actually have it here. We're trying really hard to raise the roof. We have a second floor on the top. The rooms go like this. It's difficult. You don't want to live like that. And finally, and this is all we're doing for today, the sanya. We're going to go into tomorrow. If the sukkah is round, it's like a chicken coop. Psula, imagine living in a round, everything is round. Wherever you go, there's no wall, there's no end, there's no beginning. People don't like living like that. It has to be permanent. Here's the 8 shitas that a sukkah has to be permanent. Have a wonderful day.